Khomeini shows up 79 to 89 with Khamenei being the president of Iran. And then after that, then you have Rafsanjani from 89 to 97. Then you have Khatami from 97 to 05. Then Ahmadinejad is from 2005 to 2013. And then Iran's current president is Hassan Rouhani, who's been president since 2013 to president. By the way, the supreme leader went from being Khomeini to then being Khamenei. Here's the one thing you got to know about Khamenei. While Shah was ruling Iran from 41 to 79, a lot of people complain about the fact that the Shah was worth $1 billion. According to Reuters, Khamenei, the current supreme leader, for nearly 30 years, I want to say since 89, Khamenei, according to Reuters, is worth a minimum of $95 billion. And no one knows how he's worth $95 billion. A lot of people are saying he took the money from the Iranian people, from the government, and no one could figure it out because Khomeini was all about God, and Khamenei was a little bit about business. Khamenei was more business. Khomeini was more about, hey, I love Iran. I want to be able to do something. Khamenei was a little bit more the business guy. But those are some of the numbers you need to keep in mind about what's going on with Iran. Iran's got a lot of money. Khamenei's family and himself got very wealthy. Again, you can go verify this stuff and look it up for yourself. So you got to keep this in mind. A lot of people ask, is this ever going to stop, Pat? And my answer is, I don't think it's going to ever stop. Why? Here's why. The more conflicts in the Middle East, the more control. Who? US, UK, the bigger empires. The more conflict in the Middle East, the more control. The less conflict, the more powerful they're becoming. Iran, from 63 to 78, they were growing steadily. They became a superpower in the Middle East. Everything was at peace. They're creating their own oil. They're creating their own commerce. They're creating their own military. Hey, why is Iran getting a little too powerful? We can't let that happen. Hey, coup. Give another coup. Here's a formula for a coup. Do another one. Do another one. Do another one. And typically coups are caused by the following formula. Not all the time, but many times this is how it takes place. When a Republican president is a president in the U.S. and somebody who's running Iran is pro-Israel, pro-business, pro-America, it's peace. No issues, okay? Eisenhower, Shah. Nixon, Shah. Ford, Shah. No issues. We're good to go. When a Democratic president is president of the United States, and in Iran, they somewhat have a little bit of conflict with Israel. They're not fully pro-business. They're not fully pro-U.S. There's no conflict. But when a Democratic president is in U.S. as a Democrat, and Iran is being led by somebody who is pro-Israel, pro-U.S., pro-Western, pro-capitalism, then there could be possible war. And then when there's a Republican president and it's the complete opposite, it's also possible war. Now, this war is not a war. Let's go, jets, fly and bomb. No, war could be right now, Iran's calling this an economic terrorism, okay? Hey, they're hurting us economically, is what they're saying. This is economic terrorism. It doesn't necessarily have to, because sanctions, I can't make money. If I can make money and China, India, all these countries are no longer buying from me, what am I going to do now? And this is why I put Venezuela, because Iran and Venezuela are facing similar problems. Sanctions. This is why Iran and Venezuela, they get along, because they understand each other. And they say, we understand your pain. U.S. is kind of bullying you. You're also an oil country. You used to be one of the richest. Look at the sanctions. And Iran says, yeah, us too. Yeah, so there's a little bit of that going on there that they get along with. And Saudi Arabia doesn't want to see Iran be up there. Why? Because they want to compete in the oil and they want to have a monopoly there. They want to compete in that marketplace, right? And obviously, last but not least, Israel is not a fan of Iran. Because, the whole thing, again, an enemy of an enemy is a friend. So all of those things taking place. So last but not least, this bullying thing that's taking place with superpowers. Very simple formula to bully a country like Iran. Very simple formula. Number one is create sanctions with strong requests. Strong sanctions, very strong sanctions. You tie them up. Now, I was in, where was I at? I was at Cannes, France. I was staying at Monaco, and I went to Cannes, and I'm in the beach, and I'm talking to, I can't say the name, but I can just tell you a very high-profile political leader in the Middle East that is running 21 countries financially. That's all I can tell you who this person is. And we're having an hour-and-a-half conversation together. And he tells me, he says, look, I have a lot of allies in Iran. I got a lot of friends in Iran. He says, but I'm from one of the countries in the Middle East. He says, Pat, I can't do nothing with them. We had to cut every business ties, everything, lending, everything because of what U.S. said. Because if we're on the bad side of U.S., then a lot of the relationships we have to go through U.S. because everybody wants to be good with the U.S. So the moment they had the sanctions, Iran felt it immediately. Immediately. Number two, formula to bully is befriend and support their number one enemy. So what happens? Carter leaves, Khomeini's in Iran, U.S. supports who? U.S. supports Iraq, Saddam Hussein. Why? Because remember, the president, the ruler of Iran, Khomeini at that time was anti-U.S., anti-Israel, and the president of U.S. at that time was Reagan, pro-U.S. Hey, this is happening? No problem. We're going to befriend your who? We're going to befriend your enemy, which is Saddam Hussein. And 1.5 million people get killed. So that's the part about befriending the enemy. Number three, infiltrate the nation with opposition. Internally, send people internally to create opposition internally. And last but not least, a very simple formula that's used for a long time, very, very long time. Create an internal division. When you create an internal division, it's very simple. They did it with the Shah. Pin the people against the Shah. For what? Everybody's creating jobs. People are making money. Why? If you ever go study different revolutions, the one thing that you'll notice about the Iranian Revolution against all the other revolutions, French Revolution, all the other revolutions, there's 4 things all the revolutions have in common. None of those 4 were happening in Iran. None of them with the Shah. Why did it take place? The word spreading this campaign message has so much influence. And again, it started with Carter, UK, US, CIA, MI6, US, UK again. Let's divide Iran. And this is the formula. That what history tells us. So, look, in closing, I want to share my final thoughts, hopefully to the people in Iran that are watching this. We got a lot of Valuetainers in Iran that watch this content, and even other folks around the world that are, watching this thing here. This is what I would tell you. Today, I had a former FBI agent who retired 2 years ago, 30 years, FBI agent, undercover. He worked with Russian mafia, 3 La Cosa Nostra families. He worked with Sinaloa cartel. He worked undercover on a lot of different projects, right? Very decorated. Sylvester Stallone's doing a movie on his book that just came out. He and I are sitting here in our office, we're talking, and it gets a little heated at one point. I said, listen, what's this whole story with Apple? Government telling Apple, you should give us all the access to the information because if a terrorist uses the phone, we need to know this kind of stuff. And FBI is going to the DMV to get all these pictures, ID to track citizens. What's this all about? And this never got approved. And he says, look, I'm not telling you they're doing the right thing or the wrong thing, but here's what I can tell you. He says, technology is outpacing and out-advancing our laws. The laws that we have today were written 60 years ago. The laws are not adjusted to today's times and speed. We have to understand that speed is so fast that the laws have to be adjusted because the crisis is no longer a nuclear war. It's a cybersecurity war, and we have to be prepared for that. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. And I sat there and I said, that's a pretty interesting thing to say. To the Iranian people, watch this. A lot of Iranians' principles worked pre-social media, pre-internet. A lot of it worked. Iran has to figure out who they want to be. Look, a lot of women in Iran look at women in the U.S. and they're like, wait a minute. Was there really a billionaire, youngest billionaire, 20 years old, 21 years old, she's worth $1 billion, running a company, is that really happening? Are women really running multiple businesses? And everywhere you look at, how come we don't have that in Iran? They're thinking that. Opportunity to become an entrepreneur. Are you kidding me? Barack Obama's the president, now a former apprentice, he's a president. I want those kinds of opportunities as well in Iran. So either those talents are going to be inspired to leave and come to America, just like my family and many Iranians came over here, or Iran's got to kind of adjust and say, look, what do we want to do? What direction do we want to go? What principles are working, and adapt? Because the same old principles in today's times and today's speed, today's technology, today's social media are going to constantly get pushed back, and then eventually you're going to have to face with some kind of bullies here very soon. So it's like a guy who is 5'6", 128 pounds, fighting a guy that's 6'5", 280 pounds, black belt, 6-degree, jiu-jitsu trained, UFC. It's not a fight. And sometimes, like Rouhani, the president, recently in front of a congregation gets up and he says, when we say death upon America, we're not saying death upon the American people. We're saying death upon Trump and John Bolton and the leaders of America. That's really what we're saying. And people are like, oh, okay. What do you mean, oh, okay? It's still death upon the president of the United States that you're talking about in a speech publicly recorded, being shown all over the news nationwide. So Iran has to also pick their fights and know some of these allies have the right relationship that you need for these other countries to do business with you. So I hope Iran is going to kind of make the right maneuvers long-term, not just right now based on, hey, nobody can push us around. Again, I'm giving you my thoughts. I may be right, I may be wrong. But if this video prompted you to want to go do a little bit more research, everything I talked about, I'm going to put the links below for you to go look through it, and hopefully you're going to do your own research. By the way,